everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming again today. Today we have a very special version of IDEA networking. And IDEA, if you're not familiar with, stands for Instructional Designers and Educators Alliance. Today we have a special focus on transitioning from ESL teaching in higher education to instructional design, which is something I did and my other two guest speakers have also done. So if that does not suit your particular situation, you're gonna still benefit from the things that we have to talk about today. Today, our two guest speakers are Erin Kuester and Jaclyn Gish-Lieberman. While they're speaking, they'll speak for about 5 minutes each, a little bit longer if you need more, ladies. And please write down your questions that you have so that you can ask the guest speakers in breakout rooms. I'll have 2 breakout rooms and then I'll leave the main room open if you want to talk to me. I'm going to record this first part with the speakers and the whole group Q&A, but I will not record the breakout rooms or anything that's said in them. I will put this video on YouTube for my YouTube channel, and also I'll share it out with people who registered, just so you're aware of that. Erin, I'm going to pass it off to you so we can hear your story.
So thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk to you guys all today. Sorry, I'm also going to be drinking my water, so don't mind me. My name is Erins Kuester. I'm an instructional designer for Blackbaud currently. It's a software company. But before that, I was, like everyone else, a teacher, and specifically an ESL teacher. And I feel like with both teaching and with instructional design, I got into both of them as careers, like completely on accident. Very happy accidents because I enjoyed both teaching and instructional design. But I taught English as a second language in higher education for about 10 years before I switched to ID work. I started teaching right after college. I remember I was doing a TEFL certificate program, like a study abroad program in college, which if you are an ESL teacher, you might have done the TEFL certificate or other like study abroads. And I really enjoyed it. And I got home from the study abroad program. It was the very last thing I did in college. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I have to apply to jobs. I have to figure out what I want to do. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what to do. And the director of the TEFL certificate program called me and just said, hey, I have 3 classes this semester that I don't have teachers for. Do you want to come teach these classes? And I was like, yes, I don't have to apply for jobs. I don't have to move. I was already living in the college town. And so I just started teaching college ESL classes. It just happened. It was just by chance, by luck, I don't know, but I found out that I really, really liked it. I loved teaching. I loved working with my international students and learning about culture and sharing my culture as an American. So I did that for a long time. My master's degree is in applied linguistics. And I always taught in higher education. So I taught at a couple different universities. My last teaching position I was there for about 6 years. But around year 4 of that job, like most other teachers, I started getting burnt out. I still like teaching, but there was a lot of admin work that I decided I didn't want to do anymore. A lot of my job was not actually teaching related. So it got really frustrating to me. And I decided I wanted to look outside the classroom for different positions. So I started looking around. And again, I thought, I have no idea what I can do. I've only been a teacher. Like I went straight from being a college student to being a teacher. So again, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do now. And again, I just stumbled upon instructional design by accident. Someone was like, oh, you might really like instructional design, because the part of teaching that I liked the best was creating materials, creating PowerPoints, designing curriculums, all kinds of stuff like that. I really like developing content for my courses, maybe more than I liked actually teaching the courses. So someone was like, oh, you need to look into instructional design. It sounds perfect for you. And so I did that, but I was really struggling to figure out when was the right time to make that leap. Like, when is it time to leave my teaching position and get into another field, to get into instructional design? And then COVID happened, and my department actually kind of ran out of funding. And so they let go like 20% of our instructors. It was a lot. And so I was one of those people who got cut. And so my teaching contract ended in May 2020. And so I was like, okay, right now is time to make that change to instructional design. So I started looking for ID positions. It was really a struggle at first. I spent a long time looking for different positions. And I think it was about 4 months from learning about my contract ending until I got my first ID job. But I worked then for Arizona State University out in Phoenix for about a year and a half. I was an instructional designer and instructional design associate, and I worked in the Teachers College developing teacher preparation courses. So I really got to put my teaching experience to good use, which I really loved. And then I have actually just started my new position at Blackbaud like a month ago. And this is my first non-higher education job ever. So it's a corporate job. I'm doing corporate instructional design now. I'm only about a month in, and so I can't really tell yet whether it's something I really enjoy, something I'm going to continue, or if I want to go back to higher education. I'm not sure. But yeah, so I'd be happy to answer any questions when we get to the breakout rooms. That's pretty much all about me and my teacher to ID journey. And I'm just reading all of these comments right now.
I will say that I kind of had a similar experience with getting roped into how I got roped into teaching ESL. Where I like the institution where I finished my master's, they were like, hey, would you like to teach here? And I was like, same with you, Erin. I was like, well, I don't have to apply, and they already know who I am. And
Yeah.
sure, I wasn't making hardly any money at all, but like, I mean, it was an easy way to get started. And in the back of my head, I was like, I'm only going to do this for like a couple years, and then I'll get like a full-time position, certainly, right? It was longer than just a couple years. And then it was like there was just so many jobs, and then now enrollment's down again.
So. Yes. So when I first started teaching, they needed so many teachers because it was really that upswing of international students. I graduated from college in 2010, and like probably that 3 or 4 years after that, we had huge upswings in international students coming to universities in the US. And so every year they were hiring more and more and more people. And then in the last like 2 years or so, 2 or 3 years, international student rates have like really plummeted. And so that was part of why my former department, like they didn't have budget anymore. They like just didn't have enough students for all the teachers that they had. And so I think that's probably an ongoing issue with international education at the moment. I'm not sure, but I know that a lot of my former colleagues have also jumped ship from teaching to instructional design. So it's a very, very common career pathway right now.
Yep. Good time to get into it. All right, Jaclyn, I'm going to pass it off to you. Are you ready?
So hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Gish-Lieberman. I'm currently an instructional designer at Ohio State University in their College of Medicine. And I've only been there since July. So this is my first ID job. So take that for what it's worth. I'll do my best to answer questions about it, but I can definitely talk to the transition from going from ESL instruction to ID. So I move this out of the way so I can see. I did my bachelor's and my master's in high school, 7th through 12th language arts education, and came out of that in the recession, like 2008, and couldn't find a job. So then I went back and got like an ESL endorsement, and then immediately went into teaching adult English language learners. So I did English for long-term care workers, English for refugees. I worked in intensive English program like Erin and Sharon as well at Akron U. I saw somebody was at Kent, so we were close. And then from there, I got a chance to work overseas and focus on English for specific purposes. So I really focused in on security forces. I worked, you can see the image there, I worked for law enforcement in Indonesia and peacekeeping troops and border patrol. So that was really unique because I didn't know anything about any of that. But I learned very quickly, and that kind of plays into IT work later. After that, I came back to Ohio, where I'm from, and got a job at Ohio State working in their intensive English program. And that kind of morphed into, we took on a contract from Honda. So Honda came to our university and said, we need to teach English for all of our automotive engineers and managers who are coming from Japan to work in our American plants. And they wanted to do it all online so that they could reach people in many different plants across the country. So that was kind of my introduction into e-learning and moving English language instruction online. And I think that's kind of, Erin, I kind of felt when you're talking about trying to figure out what you really liked about teaching ESL and sometimes leaning more towards the materials creation. That was definitely my experience. I always kind of felt like a fraud because I didn't come from a linguistics background. And the parts that I really liked were developing materials for all these like very unique English language scenarios. So that's when I started like getting clued into instructional design. I don't remember whoever like told me about it, but when I finally learned that that was something that I could do, that I didn't have to be a teacher anymore, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. so that there was like a 3-year gap between finishing up working for that Honda project to becoming an instructional designer. That's because I decided to go to school for instructional design. So I'm going to talk about that. But before I get to the school part, I just want to talk about some of the skills that I leveraged from that teaching ESL for adults. So I was constantly working with subject matter experts. So like I said, don't have a law enforcement background, certainly have never worked with security forces at all. So I had to develop skills where I was able to communicate and work with those experts to figure out how to translate their expert knowledge into a curriculum. Again, materials development, I really enjoyed kind of like Frankensteining materials together from a bunch of different resources to make sure that I'm creating an authentic experience for my learners. Adult learning is very different from teaching even high school students. So figuring out how to motivate adult learners. And then project management, especially working for Honda, I really had to organize myself and figure out how to hit deadlines and milestones and manage their expectations. And then I put essential skills. I had a professor once say that she hated the word soft skills, and I couldn't agree with her more, because they really are so much more important than just like soft skills. So, you know, being able to communicate well with people is very, very important. Being able to work in a team is very, very important. So showing that you have those skills when you go for an ID job is going to be way more important than being able to show that you can work with ID tech or authoring tools, in my opinion. But I did have a little bit of experience with the tech when I started doing e-learning with Honda. So I chose to get a doctorate in instructional design when I finally figured out that that's what I wanted to do. It was more of a personal choice. I don't think it's necessary by any means. I had always imagined that I would get a doctorate someday. So when I finally figured out what I wanted to do, I was like, oh, this is my chance. And I found a Doctor of Education, which is more of a scholar practitioner program. So it was all online. I was able to do the whole program from my home in Columbus, Ohio. And it's a very structured quick program, 3 years, and I went through it with a cohort. So I was working with 7 other people from many different, from industry, from government, from higher education. We all went through together and had a set course rotation. So it was really just, they didn't really have to think about it too much. I just did what I was told, and really focused. It was a good balance of like learning sciences and design. And then there was a dissertation component. So I really got to focus on my research skills. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm not finished yet. Hopefully May. But I just really appreciated the program because it did give us perspectives from different industries, from government and from higher ed. So we were hearing guest speakers from all these different areas. We were doing work. We actually had to do like an internship within that program as well. So I thought it was a really good mix. The benefits of that program were the research skills. That was important for me because I knew I wanted to go back into higher education. And so like my position right now, I'm working with medical educators, and very often they want to be able to disseminate their work out into professional journals and things. So having that background is really essential to helping them reach their goals. I came out of the program with a really robust portfolio because some of the projects we had to do. Obviously, the EdD looks good in higher education, and I think it opens the door to more administrative positions down the road, and of course, higher pay. So that's sort of why I went that route. But I'm going to stop sharing. There we go. Okay, so I'm looking forward to answering any of your questions about that route, if you want to go that way to transition into ID.
That's awesome. It's nice to have somebody drop in who's gone the route of doing an instructional design PhD, because I know we've had questions about that. People asking particularly like, do I need to go back to school? And it depends on what you want to do. I'm sorry, I've acquired a compadre here. But it depends on what you want to do. You know, I think that, you know, Erin and Jaclyn can speak to this too, but I think if you don't want to go back to school, you're like, oh my God, I've spent enough money. I can't do this anymore. I can't spend any more money on education. There are jobs that you can get in instructional design that don't require you to go back to school. You may have to build your skill set and the tools that you have at your disposal. You may have to create some evidence that you can, you know, create things in software that people want you to be able to use, but you may not necessarily need to go back. Jaclyn, do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, I think I could have gotten a job without the degree. I could have made that transition into ID, maybe with just a little bit of talking to people in the field, figuring out what the languages that they wanted to hear on the applications and things. So that was really just a personal choice for me. It was in a good time in my life to take that time off, and I was able to get funding for school. So yeah, I guess it just depends on kind of your major goals.
Some of you, I've acquired a companion here. I think he'll be fine. He just needs some mama time, I guess. So our next meeting that we're going to have, in case you don't know, I'm going to take December off because it's just bananas. There's just too much going on. My daughter's going to play. I'm like, okay, no December. The next meeting that we'll have is January 4th from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, if you want to put it on your calendar. And I'm going to drop the registration link into the chat so you can sign up now if you already know that you want to come back. Would love to have you back. There's the registration link for that. And I'm going to open it up for questions for whole group. And feel free to unmute yourself and I'll try to recognize you and get you on screen.
Oh, I have a question. What is the job market like now? I know in the last, I would say over the summer, and spring and summer, the job market was pretty dismal, but it seems like it's picking up. Does anybody have any idea about that?
Is anybody currently applying for jobs? Erica said, do you
Yeah.
want to speak about that?
Yeah, hi. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Erica. I'm a teacher full time, but I am looking to transition into ID, and I'm constantly applying. And honestly, I get about maybe 2 interviews per week. One of the challenges, though, that I'm having is that I'm applying for a lot of corporate jobs, and they see that my background is really kind of, I don't know, school-based, for lack of a better word, because I'm a teacher. And so they keep telling me I'm a better fit for something that's more tailored towards the educational realm versus the corporate realm. And I kind of want to get in the corporate realm. But with that being said, I mean, I use in LinkedIn quite a bit. I connect with a lot of people and I apply for everything. And I mean, it is hot. ID is very hot right now. So that's been my experience.
Mm-hmm. I had, when I mean, my job search was a while ago. It was April 2019. But just to give people an idea of how many jobs I applied to about 40 jobs. I interviewed seriously for 2, and I did not get the first one, and I got the second one, and that was August 2019. That's how it went. Anyone else applying for jobs right now?
Well, I just finished applying for jobs because I started my new position in October, but I can speak to it a little bit. I'm not sure about like in-person ID jobs, but I know right now the market for work from home ID positions is extremely competitive. Because everyone wants to work from home at the moment. There are so many advantages to people. So when you see those ID jobs that pop up on like LinkedIn, there are tons and tons of people applying to them. I know that for my current position that I have right now, my manager told me that there were like 500 applicants. So if you apply from a work from home position and you don't hear back, or you get ghosted, or you aren't offered an interview, I wouldn't take it super personally, because it's really rough for the work from home jobs right now, because everyone wants them and everyone's applying for them. So that was just really interesting to hear.
Yeah, mine wasn't a work from home job when I applied, but it became a work from home job. So you never really know what's going to happen. Other questions out there?
If you don't mind, I kind of refer to what I was asking before. So yeah, actually, a question I have is, when do you start applying for jobs? Because I kind of feel like I'm not ready yet. I mean, I've probably put around 100 hours of different kind of PDs and kind of training and things into it over the last few months. And a few people told me that I should apply for jobs. I have a master's degree in teaching and 10 years of teaching experience, half of which is in adult learning. And people tell me, why are you looking for internship? Just apply for jobs. But again, given that I'm Australian and I live in Vietnam, I'm not a US citizen, and the job market is very limited. I'm kind of afraid that I kind of waste the opportunities because I don't feel I'm ready. How do you know? When did you guys kind of know that you're ready to apply? You should do it.
I started applying for jobs because I was just so burnt out. I was like, I can't sustain this life. Something's gonna have to change. But I think everyone kind of comes to that point, or not. I mean, maybe not a burnout point, but everyone kind of makes the decision differently for different reasons. If you don't have the confidence yet, it sounds like, I'm just guessing, Jahan, but it sounds like your issue isn't a competence issue, it's a confidence issue. If you have a master's in teaching, maybe you need maybe you just need someone to tell you you can do it. Like, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? It's not like you don't know anything about education. So just apply. And if you're applying for US based jobs, and that's an issue, apply for jobs around where you are. I'm burnout. Rashida says, I'm burnout as well. I'm qualified. Yeah. I feel you. I mean, this like right here was what pushed me over the edge. I was like, I can't. How am I supposed to be a mom to 2 kids and have like a full load of classes and I'm like, I can't. I'm working every hour that I'm awake, either being a mom or being a teacher or being a wife, and then the weekends come and then the kids are home from daycare and you're like, this isn't any better. Now I have 2 of them to take care when I'm supposed to have some time off. There's no time off. Like, girl, right? Any questions? Jasmine says, I think if you keep networking, you get a better sense of where you are in terms of other ideas in the field, finding a mentor who knows what you need for entry level. There are lots of people that want someone entry level because they don't want to pay a lot, but it's still going to be more than what you're making as a teacher, quite honestly. But get your foot in the door. There's lots of, we had somebody on a couple months ago that started as an instructional designer for a machining company, didn't know anything about machining, but was like, I'll learn that. And she was like writing training manuals and making trainings, and just by talking to subject matter experts. And before that, she taught English. You know, it's possible. Oh, which podcast would you recommend? There's so many good ones. Does anyone have a list just ready? I'm going to type one here in the chat that I know. Gosh, I'm going to forget her name. Leslie.
Sarah Stevick.
Yep, Sarah Stevick. Does she have a podcast?
I don't know. She has the website.
Yeah, the LinkedIn group. Actually, let me just put, oh, that's a good one. The Idiok. Sarah Stevick's, it was actually on the agenda at the bottom of the agenda. The link to her group, I'll put it in the chat too, so everybody has that available. Sarah and I just presented at mid-TESOL about getting into instructional design just a couple weeks ago. Yeah, Alyssa. Yeah, that presentation is what brought Alyssa here. Yeah, and Erin has presented at mid-TESOL. Yep. It's up way past his bedtime, but it'll be fine. All right, last call for questions. Well, I will say that if no one has told you yet, you know, if you need to hear it, you can do it. You know, if you already have a degree in teaching or education, you've been doing it. You just have to learn how to sell what you can do in new words. Use the words that they want to hear. If you're not really sure where to start, what I would do is I would go out on Indeed or LinkedIn or Glassdoor and look for jobs that sound interesting to you. And then find out what kind of skills you need. Is there software you need to learn? And then from there, figure out what you want to add to your tool belt. If something just doesn't sound very interesting to you, you don't have to do it. Life's too short. Don't do something you hate. Do something that brings you some joy. All right, all. I think that is good for tonight. And I just want to take some time to thank Erin and Jackie for coming. I really appreciate you guys sharing your time and your experience. It's always nice to hear how other people got into this field. Thanks everyone. Have a great night, and I will share the recording soon.